What's up, YouTube? Alright, well, it's Labor Day weekend, so we got 3 days to get this truck back together. As you can tell in the previous video, all the boards are ready to go in. They're all clear coated, dried, ready to go. Right now I got them out of the way. I've got them in the backyard, pretty much laid out how they were in the garage. So they're out of my way. Hopefully no bird flies over and poops on it. So I gotta check my boards, make sure ain't nobody pooped on it. As you can tell, I've already time-lapsed, pulled the bed off, kind of body work that front lip right there for the bolt holes are to support the boards. So I need to clean up the bed a little bit where I'm going to be using that rust fix. Kind of clean the rust. There's some dust and dirt, I'm sure, from just sitting around in the garage. Get all that cleaned up, masked, and then get that stuff painted, whatever you want to call it. That rust fix sprayed on there. Let it set up. I was going to paint it, and I'm not doing all that. I'm just going to rust fix it, put it all back together. I did order a tube of 3M seam sealer for the fender wells. Hopefully that stuff comes in today, so I can start using that stuff probably tomorrow. So the day is Saturday. There's a few odds and ends I need to take care of on the actual truck itself. I got a massive air leak right now on the right side of the tank. I got to deal with that. Tidy up that air line. A couple other things, but one thing I am going to be installing, I got this a couple of weeks ago from eBay. GSI Fabrications, an 1.5 drop block kit. It says 67 through 72, but it actually works for 63 to 72. But that's the block right there. It's solid aluminum. You got their little logo stamped on there, or I guess maybe probably riveted on there. Really nice little piece. They do come with the U-bolts and the nuts. It comes with everything: U-bolts, nuts, and then the blocks. So we got to install that today. Because I see it this way: I've already got the frame notched. Already got the center boards cut to where it'll allow the rear end to poke through. So with those lowering blocks, that'll push the rear end, should push the rear end all the way up into that notch to get as low as it'll possibly go, aired out. Plus it should allow me to ride with a little bit more air in the back at a lower setting. So I'm thinking that they do make a 2-inch block as well, but I think 2 inches is going to be a little bit too much. So I think 1.5 inches is going to be perfect. So I've got a busy day ahead of me. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be getting done, so I don't want to do too much of this video filming and talking. We'll just work through it, kind of show the process as it goes, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, I got a busy day ahead of me and it's hot, so I'm going to fire these fans back up and go from there. Alright guys, I'm going to get to it. Alright, real quick guys, before I pick this bed up, I'm going to go ahead and move it out of the way and bring the truck back in. But that's that rust fix. It's going to convert that into, I guess it says a primer. I don't know how it actually does it, but you know, this part you can't see, and it's sandwiched in there between the wood. So yep, I'm gonna let that dry. It's already pretty much dry to touch, but I'm gonna go ahead and let it dry, kind of push the bed out of the way. It turned out okay. Should protect it a little bit better than it just being bare steel. So, all right, guys, I got the hoist back on. I'm gonna lift this bed up and I'm gonna scoot it over here somewhere so I can bring the truck back in. All right, guys, I'm gonna get to it. All right, guys, so off camera I took care of a few odds and ends. Went ahead and put a couple of more clamps to hold that rear air line that goes to the driver bag. Relocated that. I noticed on an old photo I took when I took the truck apart that the actual vent hose is over here, not on the, I had it on the other side. So I'm thinking with the boards across the top, that's how it's going to set. So I moved it over here. I think that's going to work out great. Had to do a little bit more tweaking on this line to kind of get it more flat on the top. Also, it was, when aired out, it was kind of rubbing right here with the new lowering blocks, and I do have the new lowering blocks in. They look pretty good. You can have the GSI name facing out towards the wheel if you want. I don't really think it matters, but that's pretty straightforward. Just remove your old U-bolt. It's kind of tricky getting everything apart, putting it back together. It's not too bad, but you are going to need a floor jack, maybe some jack stands, and just kind of got to finagle and move and twist, and it'll all line up and get in there. So yeah, it goes in between the rear end and the trailing arm, so make sure you pay attention to that. That's it. Oh yeah, one last thing. It's a little ugly, but it's gonna be my temporary fix until I can get my mufflers replaced. That's just a spark plug heat shield or heat boot. I just cut it in half, just kind of wrap it around the brake line, use some flexible twist wire that I had, and so now I can set on that rear end. It doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, once the whole truck's back together, we'll take it for a test drive, and if everything goes okay, we'll be trying to get a muffler shop to change out those mufflers. So you pretty much see where I'm at with it. So now we'll go ahead and move the truck back out, kind of get this bed centered in the garage, back the truck up in the garage, and then start bringing those rails and boards and start getting this bed put together. I don't think it's going to be all done today, but if I can get everything set in there and get the bed set on the truck, then I think we'll be good to go for a good stopping point, and then we can pick up where we left off tomorrow morning. So, all right, guys, we'll get back to it. Challenge, not too bad, but these rails here will slide on the frame, and everything's painted and smooth, so they're just sliding all over the place. If you're unaware, these boards support the front of the bed, so all these boards that are on here are going to be supporting the front of the bed. The rear has those welded little whatever the little supports on the back, and they set on the frame. This part has to have the rails in with the wood in to get all the weight on it. So I was trying to get all these bolts lined up best I could. The hole, I'm gonna have to make a little bit of effort. I'm gonna have to do it. You can use a floor jack and just kind of lightly jack up on each end. Use like a block of wood so you don't crease your metal. Scrap 2x4 or whatever, and just kind of raise it up, make your adjustments that you have to make, and set the weight on the bed back. see where I'm at with it. I'm gonna go ahead and get back at it. Once this area is figured out and all these rails are centered, I'm gonna start sticking the wood in. We're gonna go from out the edge boards to the center. So everything's in place. We'll start laying the trim, start installing the bolts. And we'll see how much we get done today. So I'm gonna stop talking and get back at it, guys. Just wanted to take a moment and show you what I'll get with. All right, let's get to it. Well, that sucks. I didn't make my holes big enough for the bolts to go through. So I had to enlarge it ever so slightly, so now I already did one. That sucks because any clear and stain that was in there is now gone because I drilled it out. Oh well. Alright, I gotta do this, correct this problem, and go from there. Alright guys, so pretty much got the 4 corners set up. Kind of sucks I had to enlarge those holes on those 2 end boards, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. We'll take this bed lifting apparatus off, get the engine hoist out of the way. That way I can start laying out these boards and getting them in place. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this thing off camera and then set back up, and we'll start getting these boards in. Alright guys, let me get to it. Got it in place loosely for now. Y'all can see that, but I marked each board that mounts to the bed to the frame. I actually marked on the bottom side which side it was and the direction it goes, so that way there will be no guessing. Just set them in there. It. Know what she gets. I can tell you right now, this is what I wanted. That thing sets level. Maybe a hair of a rate, but it sets level. That's what I want. Looks like I might have to make an adjustment in my panhard bar. Look at how narrow that gap is to that. I'll have to correct that. There it is. Now all we gotta do is start laying the trim down, but it's about 440. I probably can't see that from here. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day. I got quite a bit accomplished. I wanted to get the boards out of the elements, get them all laid out, and now they're laid out. The bed's on the truck, so I'm pretty much good to go for today. So we'll pretty much call it, not on this video, but this portion of it, and I will see y'all tomorrow morning. Alright YouTube, it's Sunday morning. We got a new day ahead of us. As of yesterday, we got all the boards in place, obviously. So that's all done. Today we're going to start getting the trim, which I got it inside the 8-foot box that all the long boards came in. They got a little dusty, so I have to blow those off, wipe them down, whatever I got to do there. Lay all the trim out, except for the one piece that hasn't been cut. I have not done that yet. The one that doesn't go across the hole, I have to cut that one, but I'm going to do that last. Get all the bolts in. I believe the first bolts I'm going to go ahead and install first are the main 8 bolts that hold the bed down. That way that those 2 boards and the rails that they sit on are all centered on the frame or whatever. That way if I got to make any adjustments, you know, left or right, one way or the other on the bed, I can do that before I bolt everything down. And then once those are done, then I can run all the strips and the 108,000 bolts that hold the trim down. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and move the open the door, move the truck forward a little bit. Need to air it up, and I'll probably jack up the rear, support it with some jack stands so I can get under it when I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that going and go from there. Alright guys, let's get to it. Alright guys, there they are. All 8 bolts are in. Holes lined up perfectly almost. I had to slightly move this beam right here, or rail, whatever you call it. I had to ever go so slightly to the left to get that hole lined up. Once I did that, they all fell into place. So now we get the fun part. Now I got to lay out all the trim and start running all the bolts through it. And once that's done, we can install the fender well. So one by one, these steps are going to get done. Ooh, that was a rhyme. We're just having fun. That's how we do it. Let's go. Alright guys, we got all the shorter trims in. I can't do the outer corner bolts yet because I got to have the fender well on it before I can do that. The only reason these are still in there because it's holding that one thinner bed rail up in place until I start getting some more bolts in. One thing I forgot to mention, they do recommend putting anti-seize on the threads of the bolts because they are stainless steel. It helps prevent falling, I think. I've been doing that. So now we're going to start laying all these long strips in and running the bolts in by hand. One thing you can do, when you're on the bottom side of the bolt, especially if you ain't got nobody helping you, kind of take a screwdriver and push against the bolt. That way you can get your nut and washer started when you're on the bottom side, because you know if you're trying to do it by hand, you're going to push the bolt up from the hole. But if you take the long screwdriver, just kind of push against it a little bit, put some tension on it, then you can thread it on there. That's what I've been doing. Alright guys, we're starting laying the long trims in. Let's get to it. Alright guys, got the driver's side fender well in. All the bolts lined up really good. Had to make a little tweak adjustment here or there, but all the holes I made in the wood lined up perfectly. Looks good. So the only thing I haven't installed are the perimeter bolts that mount the fender well to the wall. So I got to do that. Then I got to install this one. I'll show you the seam sealer I'm using. It's made by 3M. This is black seam sealer. And did not realize that you need a, let's see, right here. You need a 3M cartridge applicator. It gives you a part number. I don't know what it looks like, but it's not a caulking gun. And that's what it looks like on the bottom. So what I've been doing is using this, kind of standing up on the table there, and then push down on the tube, and then using my finger to apply it. And I just applied it on the end right here. And I just followed that black line all the way across, so that's where I've been putting the seam sealer nice and thick. And then install the fender well. Then I'm gonna get all these bolts in, and then I'm gonna mount all the wall nuts and bolts that are all cleaned up and ready to go. So you guys gotta probably put a little little anti-seize on it, so they don't get all rusty and stuff. So go ahead and do that, guys. Apply the seam sealer on the other fender well and go from there. All right. Show you how I'm doing it. Now, like I said, I was pushing this, using this to push the seam sealer out. There we go. They don't need to be a 1/4 inch thick, but you know, picking it up pretty good where it'll hopefully seal up. For the purpose of time, I'm not going to order the applicator tool and wait, but I can just do what I'm doing now. A little messy, but it'll work. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do with this tube once I'm done. I'll probably have to, I might be able to save it, but it'll probably end up drying out and I have to throw it away anyways. 3M products are not cheap. I think this is like, with tax, it's like $20, so. There you go, pretty thick on there. Don't be scared to slather it on there a little bit. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the truck and run all those bolts, and then I gotta do all those, all these. All the bolts that support the, this part to the bed wall. So go ahead and get this on the truck and we'll go from there. Alright, YouTube, let's get this fender well in here. The alignment tool comes into play. Believe it or not, they shortchanged me one. They shortchanged me one of these bolts here. I ain't lining up. Not lining up. There we go. State, they gave me an extra one of these, but I'm missing one of these. call them up probably Tuesday and see if I can get a new bolt. They'll probably send me one in the mail. That's all I need, I think. I don't think I'm missing any nuts. I haven't counted them. I have not counted my nuts. Yep, I think what I'm going to have to do, I need to mount all the bolts here, get all those mounted. It should hopefully pull it in, and then I can line these two up. They're not lining up very well. It has nothing to do with the wood, it's the metal part. So let me do that. Let me get under here, start getting those bolts installed, we'll go from there. Alright guys, got all these bolts tightened up. It took quite a long time to do, but that's just part of the process. I don't think I missed any. I'm gonna probably let this truck, and once I drive it, I got a headlight on, so it's making a reflection from the phone. But anyways, I'm gonna drive this thing today. I got to put the bumper back on it. But once I do that, and probably here in the next couple weeks or something, I'll check all these bolts, make, you know, because you know how wood is, it expands and contracts, so it might, once you start driving, and it may shift around. And so I know on the old boards, I had several bolts that didn't even have any nuts on them because they fell off. But it looks pretty good under here. A little window right there. Hello, trucky poo. C10 Talk. Episode 1000. At Charlie C1066. Woodwork. Stupid. Oh well. You gotta have fun sometimes. Alright guys, so we got a new day coming. Last weekend, got this truck together on Labor Day. We went for a little test drive. Truck did pretty good. Rode nice. Rides a lot different, especially in the back. Also, didn't really notice any driveline issues, no vibrations that I could tell. excuse me, got up to about 70 miles an hour for a brief moment. I didn't get on the highway, so it was on like a 3-lane road, and didn't really notice anything, but I didn't stay at that position long. So we get back, and I was gonna go ahead and start cleaning the truck. Something in the back of my mind said, check your lights, check the rear lights, make sure they're working, because that's one thing I didn't check. So wife got home. I said, my brake light's working. Stepped on the pedal. She's like, no. Okay. Pull the light switch. Tail lights on? She's like, no. Okay. So I guess I just drove the truck with no lights. So I made sure that that was connected down here. I was pretty sure it was, and it was, but I unplugged it and reconnected it. Still no lights. So I went under the dash to make sure there was, make sure the fuse was good, and it was blown. So, well, that's unusual. Why is it blown? Replaced the fuse, turned the lights on. The fuse didn't pop. So, but there were still no lights, still no brake lights. So I checked the bulbs, make sure they were good, and they were. And it seemed like it was grounding properly, so I finally unplugged it and turned the light switch on, and I was getting 12 volts to the frame harness to the end of the connector. And my wife stepped on the brake pedal, and I was getting power to those 2 wires that power the brake lights, or the wires that power the brake lights. They were on, getting power. Plugged it all back in, still nothing. So something's going on with this rear harness here. I messed with it for a little while. Finally said, you know what, I'm not messing with this anymore. I just went online to classicparts.com and just ordered all new wiring for the rear, the frame harness, the rear harness, and I think there's another harness for the backup lights, because this also has backup lights. And as you can tell in the previous little clip there, as I'm backing the truck up, the lights are working. The reverse lights didn't work, but the backup lights were working, or the brake lights are working. So there's something going on with this back harness, I believe. So we're going to replace all this wiring and check everything. And hopefully, if that's good to go, then we're going to take it on a test drive, and we'll bring y'all with me. Go on a little test drive and just kind of get on the highway and do some other stuff like that. So that's what we're doing today. We're replacing this harness, replacing all the the rear harness and the frame harness. I'm going to do one final check under the truck, make sure there's nothing, I didn't miss a nut or a bolt, just make sure everything's 100%. I still got a few odds and ends to take care of, like those 2 boards. I want to make sure they're supported nice and strong, but I'm going to get me a piece of flat iron or something like that, something like this maybe, but a little thicker and a little wider, that way it really supports. So, but I want to make sure these lights are good to go. So I'm going to be doing that. And next time you see this, hopefully the lights are working like they're supposed to. And I may film some stuff going on under there, just kind of show you how to do it. But for now, scoot this truck a little bit forward, air it up, jack it up, what I got to do, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, we'll get to it. Alright guys, so there's the old harness from the rear. And I can tell this is the original stuff. This wiring is very, very stiff, very brittle feeling. It's had a couple of repairs in its life. I think I taped this up for some odd reason. I don't remember why, but that was me. Might have been an exposed bare wire or something. I just taped over it. I can tell this has been replaced because the wiring here is very soft compared to the actual original harness. So somebody at some point did this. I didn't do it. This is on scrap now because we got our new wiring. Bought all this from classicparts.com. However, the wiring is made from American Auto Wire. So I think that's a pretty good company. So there's the actual rear harness there. It's got those little, whatever these are. It's got those. That's the backup light harness. If you have a truck that doesn't have the backup lights, then you won't need this. Got that, and then this is this goes from the firewall to the frame. So that's the one that goes all the way down the frame, along with this one as well. This is the frame harness. So I believe if you don't have reverse lights, you just need this one and this one. If you have reverse lights, you'll need these two as well. Also got a few extra clips in case some were broke or just in really bad shape. I think I bought 6 of them. Probably get some more in the future, but for now, see where I'm at. We'll go ahead and install the harness first. So I don't think I had any issues with the actual original frame harness, but I am replacing it today. I want to get all this put in and see if that fixes my problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, guys, and go from there. Alright guys, so finally got all the new wiring in. Went ahead and tidied it up a little bit better with some zip ties, just kind of went all the way down. Those new clips, I really like those. They're actually a little bit nicer than the originals. They snap in there real tight and hold the harness a little tighter than the originals did. Yeah, I got the new frame harness in and everything. Not going to show the whole thing there, but it's in there. Yeah, I kind of tidied that up best I could without getting too carried away, but everything's all zip tied. Looks pretty good. So let me show you, or let me tell you what issues I had. So once I installed the wiring, tested out my lights, nothing worked. And of course at that point I was kind of frustrated. I was like, well, now what's going on? Made sure the fuse was good, and it was. So started testing power. Got power out of the firewall harness, so came down here to this connector, and I was getting power here. And at first I was testing with a test light. Light bulb was lit up. Had my wife step on the brakes on both ends. Light bulb lit up. Okay. So I go to the taillight bucket and it lit up. So I said, well, I'm gonna go get a voltmeter and see what's going on. Maybe I got low voltage or something. So same thing. It's getting 11.5, almost 12 volts here. However, when I tested it at the light bulb socket, I was getting 3.5, almost 4 volts. So I'm saying, okay, I think I got a ground issue. So what I started doing was cleaning up the taillight bucket, and no avail. Nothing was happening. Still wasn't working. And after a while, just kind of scratching my head, trying to figure what's the deal. I took a scrap piece of wire and just kind of tied it into the frame here, and just loosely just went to the taillight bucket, and the lights came on. Everything worked. Brake lights, tail lights, blinkers, everything. So I'm thinking I had a ground issue, or I figured it was okay, well, I'm gonna have a grounding issue here. And it hit me almost like a ton of bricks. These things ground the bed to the frame. And once that light bulb went off my brain, you know, you just kind of got that sense of relief, like you figured it out. However, obviously this is powder coated. Like I stated in the last video, these are powder coated, and the whole frame's painted. So I connected one. Obviously, it did not ground or fix my light issue. So what I had to do is basically, I'll get up here a little closer, but you can kind of see I removed all the powder on each end of the rod, and I already had this spot made for my compressor on this side, and then the other side has its own ground, and made my own little ground wire to go from here to here. And as soon as I did that, just one wire, the lights lit up, everything worked, no issues. So basically what I did for extra insurance is I did one on the other side. Basically same thing. Removed all the powder from the end of the rod and made my own little ground wire. It's already right there. So now each side of the bed has an extra ground, and I could run more if I wanted to, but my lights are working and everything is okay in my book. So lesson learned there, and something new I learned. Yeah, there's the frame harness. Kind of had to make it a little bit more taut. I had to kind of tighten it up right there, but I still got to do a little bit of tidying up. But as you can tell, it's all in spots. So I'm also going to check all my fasteners, make sure everything's 100%. Probably use a paint pen, mark all my nuts, make sure none of them move. So that was a bit of a learning curve, but that's how the factory did it, I believe. They used these to ground the bed to the frame. And it makes sense now because there was no ground straps when I removed the bed. So if you do something similar to what I'm doing, you know, where you paint these and you paint this and you make everything all nice, or you powder coat it or whatever, you're going to run into the same issue more than likely, unless you designate a spot for grounding your bed to the frame, because that's what it needed. Now I could have done something over here. If you wanted to, you could go from here to somewhere in here or whatever, a little shorter wire. You can kind of pick and choose what spots you want to use, but I already had this spot made. It was a little easier to access, and so I just chose this spot. I can always change it later if I want to, but for now it looks pretty good to me, and all my lights work. So now what I'm going to do is get this truck off the jack stands, and we'll set it outside and air it out, do a little walk around, finish up this video. All right, guys, we'll get to it. Alright guys, there she is, aired out. Set nice and level. For some reason, long bed and rakes just don't go together for me. That's just my opinion. Looks good though. Looks good. Still got to work on my little cover here, door thing, whatever I'm going to do there. I haven't worked on that yet, so yeah, truck looks pretty good. Background not so much, but ain't really much I can do about that right now unless I move. One last thing I want to show y'all before I forget. There's that, that's what I ended up doing for my 80 amp fuse holder for the compressors. It's a little cheesy for me. I mean, I got this thing from Amazon for like $8. Comes with 2 fuses. I got it held in with a couple of machine screws, so I mean it'll work out. It's just a little cheesier than I wanted it to be, but so far it looks pretty tidy and kind of clean. It's kind of out of the way, so it'll work for now until I come up with something better or find something better. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it on this one. Turned out really nice. Hot day today, hot day. Making me sweat. Well guys, that's been an eventful 3 months. Basically from Memorial Day to Labor Day, which was last weekend. Well, we got the truck finally done. I enjoyed the process. A lot of ups and downs with it. A lot of stuff took a lot of time, tedious and whatnot, but end of the day, you know, once it's all put together, I've already driven this truck a couple times since I've gotten the wiring fixed, and it rides nice. There's no issues, no drive line vibrations. Rides a lot better. I love the stance even at ride height. I mean, I gained an extra 3 inches of drop in the back just, you know, with the lowering blocks plus eliminating that big spacer that that comes in the Easy Air Ride kit. Now that it's just the bag bolts to the frame, it rides better because you're allowed to put more air in it, and it sets actually lower in the back, so it looks a lot better at ride height, and of course aired out. So I still got a few odds and ends I need to take care of. I'm still going to work on that door, and once I figure that process out, then I'll go ahead, probably shoot another video. I do have some mufflers I'm going to put on this truck, hopefully next weekend. We'll see how that goes, and when I do that, I'll probably do a walk around driving video and just kind of let y'all hear the exhaust, see you know, see if you like it or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a wrap on this video. But like I always say, like, subscribe, and so you can stay up to date with everything I'm doing on my 66 C10. All right, guys, thanks for watching.